feeling a disconnect, like parts of you are pulling in different directions. Maybe a sense of unease, or that the path ahead feels clouded. It's a deeply human experience, this inner friction, where the outward face you show, your persona, sometimes feels miles away from the person you truly are deep down. You're not alone in navigating this complex landscape of self. Fortunately, we have a brilliant guide who dedicated his life to understanding these very struggles. Carl Jung. He offered profound insights into the hidden currents that shape us, the vast territories of the unconscious, and the journey towards becoming whole. Join me as we explore some of his most powerful ideas, uncovering how to find harmony within the different aspects of your being, moving beyond the limitations of the ego and towards a deeper understanding of your true potential. Get ready for an exploration that promises clarity and validation on your unique path. This feeling of different parts pulling you apart often starts with the persona, that necessary outer layer we develop to function in the world, the face we show to others. While essential for social interaction, if we become too identified with this persona, the authentic self can feel suffocated. The ego, which acts as the center of our conscious mind and our sense of identity, can sometimes mistake this persona, or even just a limited view of itself, for the entirety of who we are. Carl Jung spent years exploring this dynamic, showing us that this conscious ego awareness is only one small island in the vast ocean of the unconscious. It's in this unconscious realm that our true depths reside, including the shadow, those aspects of ourselves that the ego has rejected or repressed, but which still hold immense energy and potential. The tension you feel is often the psyche urging the ego to acknowledge these hidden parts. The goal, according to Jung, isn't to eliminate these tensions, but to integrate them on the path towards individuation. The process of becoming the unique individual one is meant to be. This journey involves listening deeply to the whispers of the unconscious, which often speak to us through the rich language of dreams and symbols. Understanding universal patterns, the archetypes that structure our collective unconscious, can also provide valuable insights into our personal struggles and potentials. Sometimes, the unconscious even communicates through meaningful coincidences, moments of synchronicity that feel like guideposts on our path. Navigating this complex inner world requires courage and a willingness to look beyond the ego's usual perspective, striving towards a connection with the self, the totality of the psyche, which represents our highest potential for wholeness. This process of delving into the unconscious, guided by the wisdom of Carl Jung and others who followed his path, isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a deeply felt experience that directly impacts your personal vibration, your energetic signature. When the ego is locked in a battle with the shadow, or when the persona is rigidly maintained out of fear, it creates energetic constriction. It's like trying to play a complex piece of music while holding half the strings muted. This inner conflict, this resistance to the full spectrum of your being, the conscious and the unconscious, the ego and the shadow, the persona and the authentic core, manifests outwards. Your behaviors become reactive, your emotions turbulent, and your interactions with the silent order feel chaotic or blocked. You might experience less synchronicity, feel disconnected from meaning, and struggle to interpret the symbols the psyche offers in dreams. But as you embark on the journey of individuation, gradually integrating these fragmented parts, moving towards alignment with the self, your inner state shifts. The energy flows more freely. This increased inner coherence, this integration aided by understanding archetypes and listening to your dreams, raises your personal vibration. You become more attuned to the subtle signals of the silent order, recognizing synchronicity not as mere coincidence but as meaningful correspondence. Your ego learns to collaborate with, rather than control, the vast energies of the unconscious. The shadow becomes a source of power, not shame. The persona becomes a flexible tool, not a prison. This internal harmony resonates outward, changing how the world seems to respond to you. It's not about changing the external order, but about changing your internal frequency so you can harmonize with the existing order in a more fluid and powered way. This is precisely why that dedicated moment before the day begins is so crucial. It's not a luxury. It's a fundamental practice of tending to your internal landscape before the external world demands your presence. This conscious act of turning inwards allows you to check in with the unconscious, to see what symbols might be presenting themselves, perhaps remembering something vital from your dreams. It's a moment to acknowledge the shadow, to understand its potential influence on your mood or reactions, rather than letting it operate unseen. By deliberately connecting with the self, even for a few quiet minutes, you give your ego the anchor it needs for the day. You consciously consider the persona you might need, but ensure it's a flexible tool guided by inner wisdom, not a rigid mask driven by fear or expectation. This brief period of self-attunement is a mini-individuation process, a quick alignment of your inner parts, conscious and unconscious, ego and shadow. Guided by the compass of the self, it primes you. Instead of stepping into the world fractured or reactive, you step out with a greater sense of internal coherence. This dramatically changes the quality of your presence. You're more likely to encounter meaningful synchronicity, not because the world has changed, but because your internal state is now vibrating at a frequency attuned to perceive these connections and understand the subtle language of symbols. This practice isn't limited to the morning, of course. Any intentional moment of solitude throughout the day serves a similar purpose. Stepping away from the demands, even for a few minutes, allows you to momentarily detach the ego from the external pressures and turn your attention inward. It's in these quiet pockets that the unconscious can speak, often through subtle feelings or images that surface. This isn't about isolating yourself from others permanently, but rather creating sacred pauses to check the internal compass guided by the self. It's a necessary counterbalance to the outward focus of the persona, which is constantly navigating social interactions. Without these moments, the ego can become overwhelmed, the shadow might act out impulsively, and the delicate process of individuation gets stalled. Carl Jung understood this profound need for inner exploration. He recognized that engaging with our dreams, paying attention to the symbols that appear in our lives, and exploring the archetypes that shape our understanding are all vital parts of becoming whole. Solitude provides the fertile ground for this engagement. It's where we can sit with the shadow without immediate judgment, where we can decipher the cryptic language of symbols from our dreams, and where we might even notice instances of meaningful synchronicity that the busy, distracted mind would completely miss. These intentional retreats are not just about recharging, they are active acts of connecting with the deepest parts of ourselves. They empower the ego to be a better servant of the self, rather than a fearful commander driven by external validation or the demands of a rigid persona. They are essential steps on the path of individuation, integrating the diverse aspects of our being, conscious and unconscious, into a more unified whole. This mindful engagement with solitude fosters a profound self-awareness. It helps us understand why certain situations trigger our shadow, why we might unconsciously adopt a particular persona, and how our ego responds to stress. By regularly creating this space, we cultivate a deeper relationship with our inner world. This deep inner work, facilitated by solitude and introspection, brings us closer to understanding ourselves. And as we deepen this understanding, we inevitably turn our attention to the body itself, which is the first territory of the soul. It's not just a vessel, it's a living extension of our inner landscape, influenced by the same archetypes that shape our psyche. People who are truly engaged in their individuation process understand this fundamental truth. Listening to the body's signals is a profound form of dialogue with the unconscious, a way the self communicates its needs beyond conscious thought. Like interpreting the symbols in our dreams, understanding physical sensations requires attention and intuition. Adjusting our diet, for instance, isn't just about physical health, it's about honoring the energy needs of our entire being, supporting the physical structure that houses the complex interplay of ego, persona, shadow, and conscious awareness. Prioritizing rest isn't laziness, it's recognizing the body's vital need to process and integrate experiences, mirroring how dreams help integrate unconscious material. Carl Jung's insights into the psyche's totality highlight this connection, and movement, seen not as punishment but as a ritual, becomes a powerful way to release stagnant energy. Tension held in the body from the shadow or a constrained persona. It's a physical expression of the inner work, a way to bring the lessons learned through solitude and introspection into tangible form. The body holds wisdom, often speaking through subtle cues, much like the whispers of the unconscious or the guidance we might sense through synchronicity. Just as listening to the body is a vital dialogue, so too is the act of putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. Written self-reflection creates a tangible bridge directly to the unconscious. It bypasses the usual filters of the conscious ego, allowing thoughts, feelings, and images that might otherwise remain buried to surface. It's a way to sit with the shadow, to give voice to those parts of ourselves we might fear or deny, the hidden desires, the suppressed angers, the deep-seated fears. Through writing, the persona we carefully curate for the world can momentarily dissolve, revealing the more vulnerable, authentic self beneath. Carl Jung spoke extensively about the layers of the psyche, and writing helps us peel back those layers. It's not always comfortable. Confronting the shadow can be challenging, but it is essential work on the path of individuation. The self, in its wisdom, often uses these quiet moments of reflection to offer guidance. Symbols from our dreams, recurring motifs, or even seemingly random thoughts can find their way onto the page, offering clues to our inner world. Writing helps us process emotions that the body might be holding as tension. It's a way to unpack the complexity of our experience, to make sense of what feels chaotic or overwhelming. Sometimes, writing about a confusing situation can even lead to a moment of sudden clarity, a sense of synchronicity where an external event perfectly aligns with an internal realization, as if the unconscious is confirming the insight gained on the page. It allows us to track patterns of thought and behavior, revealing the influence of archetypes that shape our reactions and perceptions. It's like mapping the landscape of our inner territory, identifying the familiar paths and discovering hidden trails. This deliberate engagement helps the ego integrate material from the unconscious, strengthening our sense of self and moving us further along the path of individuation. It's a practice of honest observation, free from external judgment, where the deepest truths of our being can begin to emerge. Writing is one powerful tool, but the principle extends to everything we consume. Every book we read, every song we listen to, every image we see, every conversation we have, all are forms of energy entering our system. Just as Carl Jung highlighted how the unconscious communicates through symbols and dreams, the world outside bombards us with its own set of symbols and narratives. Our persona, the face we show the world, is often shaped by these external influences, sometimes masking the true self or creating a superficial ego structure. Choosing what we expose ourselves to is an act of conscious curation, a way of honoring the delicate balance within. Allowing negative or discordant input can feed the shadow, amplifying fears or insecurities rather than bringing them into the light for integration. Conversely, choosing stimuli that are uplifting, insightful, or resonant can support the ego's journey towards understanding the unconscious and its vast storehouse of wisdom. It's about becoming discerning gardeners of our inner landscape. What kind of seeds are we planting with the information and energy we absorb? Are they fostering growth towards the self or reinforcing the limitations of the persona? This conscious selection isn't about creating an echo chamber, but about strategically engaging with the world in a way that supports its individuation. It's understanding that archetypes are present not just in ancient myths but in modern media, and being mindful of how they are impacting our own behaviors and perceptions. Are we consuming content that helps us navigate our own shadow work, or content that encourages us to project it onto others? The constant stream of information is potent. It shapes our reality, influences our emotional state, and impacts our ability to hear the subtle guidance from the deeper self or interpret the symbols found in our dreams or moments of synchronicity. Conscious silence is the fertile ground where the seeds we've carefully planted can truly take root and grow. It's the indispensable space needed to process and integrate the information and experiences we've chosen to allow in, enabling them to nourish the deeper parts of our being. Without this intentional quiet processing, even the most positive external input can become mere noise, overwhelming our inner system. Think of it as essential digestion for the soul. Silence isn't passive. It is an active, receptive state. It's in this chosen stillness that we can truly begin to differentiate the performance of the persona, often crafted for the external world, from the authentic, quiet wisdom emanating from the self. It allows us to sit with the discomfort that the shadow inevitably brings up without immediately seeking external distraction. Carl Jung profoundly understood the necessity of creating this inner space for dialogue. Our unconscious is constantly communicating with us through the rich language of dreams, symbols, and remarkable moments of synchronicity. But its voice is subtle. The relentless chatter of the external world, or even the ego-driven monologue within our own minds, can easily drown out these vital messages. By consciously choosing silence, we cultivate the necessary environment for these symbols to surface, for the patterns of archetypes to become clearer, and for synchronicity to be recognized as more than just coincidence. This deliberate practice directly supports the complex journey of individuation, helping the ego integrate more of the vast landscape of the unconscious and guiding us beyond the limitations imposed by the persona or the difficult grip of the shadow. It is in the quietude that we can truly listen. In this quiet, we become acutely sensitive to the subtle frequencies of our own being. We can feel the shifts, the moments when the energy field feels dense, resistant, or heavy. This isn't just a vague feeling. For those practiced in this conscious care, it's a clear signal from the inner landscape. The wisdom gleaned from sitting in silence, from paying attention to the whispers of the unconscious, begins to inform this sensing. Perhaps a series of vivid dreams has left a particular emotional residue, or a recurring symbol keeps appearing, highlighting an area of tension. Maybe a moment of synchronicity, initially perplexing, now makes perfect sense in the context of this energetic unease. These are the subtle ways our deeper layers communicate, often pointing towards unresolved aspects held within the shadow, or the strain caused by maintaining a rigid persona that no longer serves the authentic self. Carl Jung taught us the power of these inner communications. They are not random occurrences but meaningful pointers on the path of individuation. Understanding the archetypes at play in our lives, as they surface through symbols and dreams, provides a framework for interpreting the why behind the heavy feeling. It helps us discern whether the ego is clinging to old patterns or if a deeper release is needed. Recognizing these messages, these energetic cues informed by the unconscious, is the catalyst for informed action. It allows us to move beyond simply feeling off to understanding the root of the imbalance, guided by the wisdom we've cultivated through deep listening. Thus, by learning to interpret the subtle energy shifts and the communications from the unconscious through dreams, symbols, and moments of synchronicity, insights echoed in the work of Carl Jung on archetypes and the journey of individuation, we gain the clarity needed to move beyond the limitations of the ego and rigid persona, integrating aspects of the shadow and aligning with the authentic self. Trust the profound wisdom unfolding within you. How do you typically tune into the signals from your inner landscape? Share your experiences in the comments below. If delving into these deeper dimensions speaks to you and you identify as a deep thinker on this path of self-discovery, be sure to subscribe and activate notifications so you can continue this journey with us.